Hi everyone, from me, Brent Graham of goodforthegame.co.za. Thanks for joining me for this video. Something a little bit different for us. We're going to have a look at the Rugby World Cup Pool B scenarios as we head into rounds 4 and 5. I think the bookies might have made a mistake as well. I'll point that out towards the end of the show and also talk a little bit more about betting strategy. Well, if you do enjoy our previews, and we'll be previewing most of the games this coming round 4 of Rugby World Cup, then hit the subscribe button and also the like button. It helps the channel a lot. There's also a link down below to our free betting newsletter. We had a very good week with Wales as our best bet, and we had a 17-2 accumulator as well. Right, let's get into this video. I've kind of covered what we're going to be doing on it. I want to say one thing, though. Relax, Bok fans. Least likely of the 3 teams to miss out on a quarterfinal spot. And I think that will probably come as a bit of a surprise to many, but hopefully as I go through the video, you'll begin to understand that. Let's start with a look at the table and the fixtures as they stand at the moment. So we've got Ireland and South Africa there at the top, having played 3 games. The other side, they've all played 2. Ireland, of course, topping the pool after their victory against South Africa with 14 points. South Africa got 10 and Scotland 5. And those are the remaining fixtures down below. So, right, just before we even get into the scenarios themselves, just have a look at the World Cup tiebreakers. If 2 teams are level on points at the end, and it's just the 2 of them, then it goes to the head-to-head match between the sides. If, however, there's more than 1 team, or the sides maybe drew their fixture, then it comes down to points difference, and this is quite crucial, scored against in all your pool matches, because every now and again you'll get a tournament where it's only points difference between the 3 sides, but that's not the case here. That's in all your pool matches, so the overall points difference could become important. You'll see in this video, probably not that important though. Right, what assumptions are we going to make going into here? I'm going to assume that Scotland pick up 5 points against Romania, and I'm going to assume that South Africa pick up 5 points against Tonga. So this is the table as I see it heading into the Scotland-Ireland clash. I'm not worrying about, obviously, Tonga and Romania, but we've got South Africa will be topping the table at 15 points. Ireland will have 14, and Scotland will have 10 with that final game to play. As far as the points difference goes, I'm not too worried about it, and you'll see why during the video. But that's in a sort of assumption. I'm assuming South Africa beat Tonga by the handicap of 40 points and go up to about 125, which would move them ahead of Ireland on points difference. And Scotland are currently at plus 13, giving them a 62-point victory over the Romanians. Right, let's have a look at the scenarios we're going to cover. I'll go through scenarios 1 to 4 on separate slides. But the one important thing to realize that if Ireland win the game, draw the game, basically if they get 2 points in the game, then Scotland are gone no matter what. Scotland won't be able to make it through. So the scenarios I'm going to look at exclude what is the most likely scenario, and that is, of course, that Ireland win the game. What I'm looking at here is what if things go wrong for the Irish. So scenario 1, and probably the most likely scenario as far as a Scotland win goes, albeit it's still an unlikely scenario. Important to stress that point. And that is if Scotland win with 4 points and Ireland 1. So say something like 25-22 Scotland. Well, in that case, Ireland would get the point to go on 15, and Scotland would get 4 points. And you can see there that Scotland would be knocked out because they haven't got enough points to draw level with the 2 teams above them. Ireland would top it, obviously, on the basis of the head-to-head clash. Let's look at scenario 2 now. Scotland run in tries against Ireland. This is a bit more unlikely, but they score 5 points. Ireland managed to get 1 bonus point out the game. This is the only scenario where points difference could potentially come into the equation, unless something went drastically wrong in either probably the Tonga game for South Africa. But this is where you have to worry about points difference. Now, you can see that I've dropped Ireland's points difference a bit because they would have obviously have lost to Scotland. I've given them sort of like a 5-point defeat, and I've upped Scotland slightly, but I've kept South Africa stable, obviously, because they've finished. So what this shows is that the 3 teams will finish on 15 points. I would expect South Africa to probably have the best points difference here, and I would expect Ireland to have the second points difference. It's going to be very difficult for Scotland to improve their points difference to sort of reach South Africa and Ireland. So that's the likely scenario there. Maybe Ireland's points difference ahead of South Africa, but hard for the Scots to sort of come up there. And so more than likely the Scots are going to be out in that scenario. And that's probably the only scenario that the Boks have to worry about. Right, scenario 3, Scotland get 5 points and Ireland 2. Very unlikely that we get such a high-scoring game in this contest. But if that were the case, Ireland would go above South Africa. Scotland would draw level of South Africa, but points difference wouldn't even come into play. It would be based on the head-to-head, and South Africa would go through. Right, let's go into the final scenario we're going to cover, and it's Scotland to get 4 or 5 points and Ireland not to score points. And frankly, it doesn't matter if Scotland get 4 or 5, but let's assume Scotland pull out a 21-13 victory over the Irish. They get 4 points. Ireland get none. What happens then? Well, Scotland pull level on 14 points with Ireland. South Africa obviously topped the table on 15. And yeah, Ireland are knocked out on the basis of the head-to-head match between Scotland and Ireland. If they do get 5 points, and I'm not going to bring that table up, Scotland would obviously go to 15 points with South Africa, but they'd finish behind them on the basis of the head-to-head, and Ireland would be stuck on 14. Now, once again, stressing unlikely scenarios, but Scotland go into the game knowing that if they can get 4 points and stop Ireland getting a bonus point, then they will qualify. So it's certainly not without any hope there for the Scots. So let's have a look at the conclusions. If South Africa get a bonus point against Tonga, in my opinion, they're certainly through. I don't see anything happening in the points difference that is going to change that. You can ignore people tweeting and that saying Ireland should throw the game against Scotland. If they do that, they're more than likely to send themselves packing than South Africa, I can tell you. As strange as it sounds, South Africa are the least likely of the three sides to be knocked out before the quarterfinals. It doesn't mean Ireland are likely, not at all. They're more than likely going to cruise through. But South Africa are less likely to be knocked out. Scotland's best chance of qualifying. People are talking about chasing bonus points, and yes, they'll have to get their bonus point against Romania. They should be able to do that in their sleep, though. Their best chance of qualifying is to keep this a tight game. Just keep plugging away at points. Hope to somehow lead Ireland going into the last 10 minutes and then get a kick or a try or something to get an 8-point margin. Ireland are a top team. I don't see this happening, but that is Scotland's scenario, and it's certainly not impossible. Let's have a look. Is there a betting angle to this? Well, it looks as though Ireland would probably start the game around 12-point favourites against Scotland. So that shows you that an upset win is unlikely. But a Scottish win by 8 points or more will probably trade at around 20-1. I say at 20, you'll see at the bottom I mentioned 30, but there's a few other factors that go into that. Scotland will not be, in my opinion, chasing the bonus point against Ireland because they will just need to win and somehow stop Ireland from getting a bonus point. Where this will influence you is if you're thinking of betting on over or under points, understand that Scotland, although people are probably still going to tell you at the time that Scotland have to improve their points difference, it's probably going to be unimportant by the state. They're probably going to be too far behind in points difference. They're going to focus on just the win. And here's an interesting one. Bookmakers around the world have priced the Pool B straight forecast. So that is which team will finish first and which team will finish second. And South Africa, Scotland is priced at 80-1. And if you go back to if you look at all of those slides there is, if Scotland can get the 4-point victory over Ireland without Ireland scoring, they can't overtake South Africa. They can only come second. And then that Scotland-South Africa would arrive. What I'm saying is factoring everything in. I think that's about a 30-1 shot to happen. So rank outsider. But bookies are pricing at 80-1. So if you enjoy a bit of value, have a nibble on that. Don't go wild. If you're a 1,000 Rand punter, maybe have 100 Rand on that to win 8,000 or something like that. We don't want to flatten the market. But certainly it's not one bookmaker who's done this. It's across the board. Obviously, bookmakers taking their feeds from overseas there. Right, that's it for this particular video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And yes, if you do like our channel, it's the right thing to do. Hit the subscribe and hit the like.